So this is it. First episode.
I know, it's so exciting.
Oh, I feel sick just saying that out loud. But yeah, it's 11:11, so it's a good day to start. And our first guest is Sabrina Atkins, Dr. Sabrina Atkins.
Yes.
So we both know her.
Absolutely. Love her.
Yeah. Well, how would you describe her first impressions? So nothing to do with her, yeah.
Wow. You know, I expected her to not be, she's a tiny woman. She's a very tiny woman, but hearing everyone who she works on, my husband had seen her before I even did, and he's 6'2", and I just expected her to be bigger. And she's this tiny little petite thing, so cute.
Exactly, petite and powerful.
Yes.
I have her written down as.
That's exactly how I would describe her.
But she's also beautiful and empathetic. That was another thing I found with her. I felt like when I met her that she just made me want to cry. Because she was just interested and wanted to listen, and she speaks very quietly. And
right, she takes her time.
Yes.
And she's brilliant. So.
Exactly, and I'm so excited to find out a lot more about her. Obviously, sports medicine specialist, chiropractor, mum, running a business, has staff, all these things. So yeah, I'm really interested to know how she got there. What would you love to know about her?
I want to know how she balances everything, because I know it's a lot. Her life's a lot. Raising her daughter is a lot. Like, just how does she create a successful business, build relationships with all of her patients who continue to come back to her? And she seems really happy and loves it. And
I know why she's really happy too. She's just got engaged to Indiana Jones.
And he's musical and like...
I didn't know that. And he's also played Captain Jack Sparrow for 10 years at Disney.
I didn't know that.
I think I saw him at Disney, on the Disney Island.
I actually haven't met him yet, so now I'm even more excited.
I know. But anyway, that aside, it's not about him. But,
right,
we will definitely ask questions.
Right,
I want to know if he ever wears the outfits. But
just around the house for fun.
Exactly. So, Dr. Atkins, looking forward to meeting her.
Absolutely.
Hello and welcome. My name's Kerry Sheffield, photographer and CEO of my own successful business. I'm also the host of She Networks. A great believer in lifting up women and loyal supporter to those that are around me. We are all surrounded by incredible women who are breaking the molds in this thing called life. Behind every successful online persona is a real person facing struggles, failures, and living real life stories that don't always have happy endings. We will have an honest conversation, dispel this myth of perfection, and find out what they consider a success, how they achieved it, and learn what they are still reaching for. You are not alone. Join the conversation. So welcome, Dr. Sabrina Atkins.
Thank you.
My very first guest on our very first episode of She Networks. I'm so excited to have you here. So let me introduce you formally. Dr. Sabrina Atkins, sports medicine specialist and chiropractic physician. Wow, look at you. So let's get started. Tell us about you and how you got to be so auspicious and what it all means in real life.
Oh, God, tell you about me.
Yeah, so how did you become a doctor? Was it always something that you wanted to do? Just dial it all the way back and give us a little synopsis.
Sure. Well, it's funny because I came to this realization actually relatively recently. And I knew most of my life I was always attracted to human performance, anatomy, just science and biology. So I was very much into that, and I knew I wanted to go into some healthcare field, whether it was biology or chemistry or psychology. And just recently, we're just in the middle of our conversation, and you remember when everyone was getting encyclopedias? Like every household had encyclopedias. And what I remember was I'm flipping through this encyclopedia, and all of a sudden I come across these pages that are transparencies, and they lay over one another, and it was the human body. So it was this transparency of just the bones, and then just the nerves and the blood vessels and you remember this?
Yeah, no.
Right?
Now I'm visualizing
yes.
that. So you would, yes. It took me a sec, but yeah, no, obviously.
I remember in that moment falling in love.
Wow. And there's no medical history in your parents, or they weren't doctors or anything?
Oh God, no.
So you just saw that then?
Yeah.
And how old were you then?
I was probably 9.
Oh, so you were a baby. So So then you went to high school. Mm-hmm. Going to college, did you go straight into medical field?
Yeah, by about midway through high school is when I decided I wanted to be a chiropractor. So up until that point, I was teetering back and forth between being going into chemistry or going into like criminal psychology, believe it or not. Okay. But it was all it was all wrapped around just the human what's the condition, the human condition, right? And so I think somewhere along the line, I saw somewhere what this chiropractic thing was. And it was like, all right, so it's a physician, you treat people, no drugs, no surgery. You get to work with your hands, you get to touch people and be with people. And you don't have to sit behind a desk or a computer or in a lab all day. And so I was like, this is perfect, I'll do that.
Because that's really interesting that you say that, because earlier on, I was talking about you with Stephanie and, our little introduction to the show. And I wrote down these words: beautiful and empathetic, and petite and powerful. That was how I described you. And so for you talking about criminal science and psychology as well, and the human condition, I said that you have the power. Look, I'm getting emotional now. You have that power when you're in front of someone. You just made me want to cry, but not in a bad way. And I think for me, what that means is, you're really in tune with people. Maybe a little bit like I am too. That you feel people. So it's interesting that you can climb on top of us and break our bones too. We're not breaking our bones, clicking our bones, because I've had first-hand experience. But yeah, I feel like it's almost like Reiki in a way, but with the chiropractic. So maybe you don't agree with that kind of stuff, but it's interesting. So do you feel like do you have that feeling when people come into the room? Do you get to read them? Are you led to the part in their body where they're suffering because of your emotional awareness?
Sure. Yeah. It's certainly it's an energy transfer. It's an energy exchange. And you can feel a lot when you're working with someone, and that's what allows you to. I've had the opportunity over the last couple of years to start teaching and working with students, and it's interesting to start to see yourself in a different light, but also look at these students and see where they are and where all their questions are and what they're seeking. And they all have these questions like, well, how do you know? And how do you do this? And how do you determine? Like, well, my short answer is always, it's just experience. But one of the things that we talk about a lot, and I'm sure you do too, is you go through school and you learn the science and you learn the textbook stuff, but then you get into practice and you start really learning. And so the more you interact with people, the more you can almost put all of the segmental things on the shelf, because it's already part of your muscle memory, so to speak. And you can really focus on just the energetic exchange with a human being. And I think that goes a long way when you're in a healing profession, because then someone doesn't feel like they're just a job or a number or something like that. You can truly connect with them, human to human. I think that goes a long way with.
No, absolutely does. Better. And I'm going to go there at some point, but I've definitely had more than one experience of seeing a chiropractor. I've had 2 or 3. And to the point where one experience I had completely turned me off from that person to a point of dislike. They made me feel so uncomfortable. Not that they did anything inappropriate, but just their whole demeanor. I was like, no, I don't want your hands on me. So what you do and how you do it, and we're going to talk about your success there, really is making a difference. Let's just dial back for a second for those that are interested in going into the chiropractic field. I'm so impressed at how many times I've been able to say that without messing it up. But let's just go back. How do you train to be a chiropractic physician? And is it different in the sports world? Clearly it's got to be. So.
I know it's changed a lot with the curriculums as the schools have progressed, because I graduated 22 years ago. So there's been a lot of progress there, but what I can tell you is, just generally speaking, it's your basic the 4-year bachelor's and then the 4-year doctorate, or it's about a 3.5 year after the schooling's about 8 years.
Wow.
And then what we have the opportunity, like in a lot of professions, is you can focus. So a lot of people have the opportunity to take their extra courses to learn either whether they want to go into pediatrics or female health, or for, like myself, sports. So I took a lot of classes that had to do with functional movement, extremity adjusting, and fortunately, because I went to Life University.
Where did you go?
Life.
Where's that?
It's in Marietta, Georgia.
Okay.
So they had everything,
Right.
all the undergraduate, the graduate studies, the postgraduate studies. So I was able to do my Master's of Sports Injury Management there too.
Talk about your class. I mean, the ratio of men to women, and I mean, 22 years ago, it's not that long ago, and I think you're fibbing, but you know,
It was, yeah.
How was it?
I think it was mostly men,
Right.
but
And you know, you're a beautiful, attractive woman, and not to take it away any of your brilliance, but did you come across difficulties because of that in that environment? I mean, they're all young men too, obviously they're doctors, but you've got obviously your professors, but how did you feel it was received, you going into this field?
I honestly feel like I was probably naive enough to not realize there was a bias, if that makes sense. I just had my focus, I knew what I wanted to do, and I almost didn't see any kind of imbalance. To be honest with you, the only place I really felt judgment while I was in school was just being from the South.
Really?
Yeah, there was, it's interesting how, like, you hope that no one ever has
In
to
the
go.
school in Georgia, ironically. Yeah.
Ironically.
Where
yeah.
are you from?
Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you hope that no one ever has to go through bias or prejudice. And when you do, you have such a greater empathy for people who do experience it. But going to a school where it was predominantly from the Northeast, and you get exposed to a lot of different prejudices and biases, and people just thought I was stupid.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have your charming and lovely accent. When you called me ma'am yesterday on the phone, I mean, I was like, okay. yeah. But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But for me, for different reasons, just from the way I grew up, in my accent, okay, maybe it's a very similar thing, because my accent is south of England, but it's also quite common in the UK. It's not so charming. I sound like I'm uneducated.
Wow.
For the most part. And I think, growing up and being an adult in nicer areas has probably polished it a little bit, but I'm trying a bit harder. But yeah, companies that I went to work for wanted me to have elocution lessons. They would patronize me saying, oh, you're quite bright really, or, so I would get backhanded compliments all the time, and
You're
I'm not a
smarter than you
doctor.
look,
Oh,
things
that
like
stuff.
that. Oh,
Yeah,
it's the best.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, no, which is so disappointing. So you graduated college. And then what was your first step out of college? I mean, do you have to do a residency or anything like that, the way you would?
The way my timeline worked, I finished my chiropractic program before I finished the master's program. So I was able to get licensed in Georgia while I was still finishing the sports injury management program. And while there, I started traveling with the female basketball team.
So the college team?
Yes, for Life University. So that was my very first experience working with a team. I'd already done a lot of volunteer work.
And that was just nationwide? Or international?
I don't really even remember how far they went. It's funny how things like that become blurred.
Yeah.
Because you just feel, you remember the little
the younger
bullet
we
points.
get, the more blurry it becomes.
You remember the bullet points. I was like, I remember being on a bus, and I remember going to basketball games.
Sounds like it was fun. But
That's all I remember.
Yeah.
But after that, at the time, Florida, there's 4 national boards and there's a physical therapy board. And we all pretty much take all 5 boards. And at the time, and states still have this, like each state's different in terms of what they require. So some states have different requirements on how high of a score you need, or some states don't require Part 4. At the time, Florida didn't accept Part 4. So you had to sit for an individual state board as well.
Wow.
So we took 1, 2, 3, 4 physical therapy. And when I moved down to Florida, I got a job with another doctor just doing exams because I couldn't treat patients.
Why did you want to come to Florida?
There was a group of us. We all graduated together. One was my boyfriend.
Yeah.
And we just, part of it I think has to do with being ambitious overachievers, because we're like, Florida is the hardest state to get licensed in.
Which is, I'm amazed.
We want to go there.
Okay.
We want to go there because it was the challenge.
Yeah.
A lot of it was the challenge, but the other half of that was when you look at the scope of practice in Florida, it allowed us to do a lot more too. So it wasn't just the chiropractic adjustment, which what's funny about that is the longer I've been in practice, the more you appreciate the power of the adjustment. But I really enjoy working with functional movement and soft tissue work and nutrition and really just encompassing the whole health spectrum.
And were you sporty too? Were you playing any sports? Because, you were interested in anatomy and physiology always. I mean, obviously you're very fit too. Were you doing something yourself in sports?
I played multiple sports. I did softball most of my life. I ran track. I was a wrestler.
Yeah, I this is the thing I was leading to. I think I kind of remember something like that. So tell it. So wrestling, with the funny hats on and the weird outfit? No, tell me about the wrestling.
Yes.
Was this in school or outside of school?
It was in high school.
In high school,
Yeah.
right.
So wrestling.
And please, can you just tell us how tall you are, Sabrina?
5'1".
Yeah, so you're, like I said, petite and powerful. Yes. So you were a wrestler, wow.
Yes, and I was stupid and naive and
Did you win though?
I loved to ruffle feathers, I guess.
Yeah,
I was like,
ruffle something. I want to see pictures of this. We need to find that for,
there was no female wrestling team.
Wow.
There was just a wrestling team. And it's funny too because you look at these choices and people make different choices for different reasons. And I've never been one to make a choice to necessarily make a point, right? But I fell in love with wrestling because my sophomore year, I think my freshman and sophomore year, I got the job as like the scorekeeper. And so you're on the team and you're watching it, and I fell in love with the sport. And so I decided my junior year, I want to wrestle.
Yeah. So, but who are you wrestling with? Other females? Because
no, just boys.
Just boys,
Just
and that
boys.
was allowed. I'm impressed at that.
That's the thing that's interesting about it is when you don't have an option. When there's not a female team and a male team, there's just a team.
Oh,
there was no rules.
So they had to just let you be.
Yeah, they had to just let me try out. And I made the team. And I don't know, I guess it was just fun to me.
Yeah.
But I wound up getting hurt.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we can compete with the best of them in most things, but the reality is, in terms of sports, a male body and a female body is two different machines.
It's two different machines. Now, luckily, where we were, and that's exactly right, because had I started earlier and had I been wrestling at a lighter weight, there would have been it would have been a better experience for me. Okay. By the time I started wrestling and at the weight that I was wrestling, the guys were getting really strong.
Yeah.
And it was, what's even more ironic than that is it was an accident. Like, he didn't hurt me on purpose.
Right.
We literally just fell weird, fell on my shoulder,
Yeah, and what
it just
happened?
dislocated my shoulder.
Wow.
And lucky for me, I grew up in a small town where you don't have health care. You just, you just suck it up, rub some dirt in it, and move on. So I had this injury that never got repaired or rehabbed or anything like that. In fact,
did they just like call Joe that fixed cars down the street to come and whack it back?
yeah, not even.
Wow.
Not even was.
I'm seeing all the old movies, but yeah.
Oh, it's a horrifying story. It's one of those things where, like, I actually forgot until just now.
Yeah.
But it was an away match. I'm driving my little manual transmission vehicle. It's my left shoulder. And I drive myself to the emergency room after we get home from the match. I go to the emergency room. I walk in. The emergency physician looks at me, asks me what's happening, tell him, I was wrestling, and we fell wrong, and this is horrible.
Yeah.
And he said to me, girls don't belong on the mat. If I was wrestling you, I would try to hurt you on purpose.
Wow.
From the ER physician. And so they took x-rays, nothing was broken, and they sent me home.
Wow, that's just crazy. I mean, I'm not reacting massively because I'm not surprised.
Right.
And, and I don't want anyone to sit and think that this platform is, women against men, and it really isn't. What it is about is being faced with that prejudice and how we overcome it and how we work through it. And how did you overcome this injury, and was your wrestling career just done then? You stopped?
Everything was over. It ended my entire sports career.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you have problems with it now? I mean, to be honest, you're still wrestling. You're just wrestling your patients on the table because, you're still, and we're going to get to the people that you work with. And there's some big people out there that you work with. So is it a strain for you? Do you feel that?
It does still have a stress pattern in it, and it doesn't help that I'm left-handed.
Right.
So that being the dominant side of my body, I want to roll it forward anyway. But I used to have a lot of problems with it, and that's what turned me on. I went to one seminar, and my arm was so bad that if I just raised my arm like this, it immediately went numb. So I had a just classic case of thoracic outlet syndrome. And I went to a seminar where they did the techniques that I use in my practice now, and he worked on my shoulder 2 times. And it was gone.
Wow. And I mean, that relief, I mean, that's fantastic. So you came to Florida. I imagine you worked with a few doctors. Talk to us now about where you are, where you were then to where you are now. And where you are now is you run your own, would you call it a clinic or what's your...
Practice.
A practice. So you have your own practice, you have multiple people working with you, but there's lots of beautiful, exciting things that have happened to you in between. And also maybe some not so easy things. So you you have a beautiful daughter, Bella. And so your mum told her, how is she, 11, 12?
She just turned 12.
Just turned 12. And were you married to Bella's dad? And so there's been some changes in there. So, and talk about however comfortable you are with that. And the only reason it matters, because here's the thing. I think for women in business, what happens in our personal life affects our work life. And I don't feel always that men have to make the same allowances. They can get divorced and it may not have any impact on their professional life. But for us, it does. There's lots of practicalities involved and mental adjustments and just big life changes. And I do feel that for women working, there is no professional us and private us. It's just us. And I feel that's very different with many men. Like they'll come home and they're like your 12-year-old son. You ask in the car what he did that day. He can't even tell you. It's gone when they walk in the door. Do you know what I mean? I think so I'm interested to know, when you started working for yourself. And just talk us through that a little bit. You know your own journey. Tell us what happened.
After we got licensed,
Yeah.
I was an exam
So you came
doctor.
down here with a boyfriend.
He worked in another practice. I worked in a separate practice. And then after we got licensed, we opened our own practice. And we started really slow and just kind of like subleasing out of other doctors' offices. And then we actually did some not remote, but we traveled to people's homes for a little while.
And was chiropractic medicine at that time popular? I know that it became more popular for me as I got older as an adult. It wasn't something I really knew much about.
I can't say. I know that as time has gone by, it's gained a lot of ground because of all the research that's gone on, and there's so many good chiropractors too that it's really helped the profession grow and develop its reputation. But then after we did that for a little while, then we found this little tiny spot in Pine Hills with bars on the windows next to a mortuary.
Oh my God. Well, that was convenient.
Yeah, it's literally like we're just two poor kids, and we had no money, and we're like, all right, what can we afford? Nothing. So we found this space, and we rented it out, and then we tore it apart and redid the whole thing and borrowed things and tried to get we asked doctors that we knew, like, is there anything that you don't want anymore that we you can donate? And I remember one of the doctor that I worked for, he had these old chairs that he was going to throw away. So he gave them to me, and I recovered them. And it's just all the things that you do in the beginning where you're just ground floor.
Make it happen.
Yeah, you just make it happen. And we hit the streets, and we worked our butts off nonstop.
And who were your clients? What kind of people were they?
Mostly families, just a little bit of everybody. We saw everybody. And as the years went by, and of course, our relationship disintegrated. We didn't want to be together anymore. And so when our lease was up after 5 years, we decided to separate. And then he opened up in a new place, and I opened Orlando Sports Chiropractic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was 2008.
So this is,
7.
You were married?
We were married.
You were married, and you have Bella?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how old was Bella when you went on your own?
Bella wasn't born yet.
Oh, wow.
I met her dad while I was doing my build out for this practice.
Yes.
And we dated, and we got married, and then a few years after, then we had Bella. And then before her first birthday is when there was the split.
So, you've got this brand new business, you've got this brand new baby, you're on your own. And you would never ask this in an interview, but how the hell did you do that?
I don't know. You don't know. Like when you don't know.
I just have this vision, and it's funny, I had this dream last night that I was trying to carry 3 babies on my body, and I'm pushing a bike, and somebody else was asleep on it, and the babies were strapped to me. I don't know why I had that dream. I don't know what that's all about, but I have this vision of you coming to work with this tiny new baby.
Yeah, took her to work with me every day.
Really?
Yeah. It was. You don't know how you do the things you do, and there was more than one breakdown when you just get to the point where you literally cannot take any more, because like you said, you're redlined constantly with all the obligations and responsibilities and ambition.
I was going to say, so then in order to keep going, you need to be motivated, you need to be ambitious. At that time, and I'm sure those motivations and ambitions have changed now, today, but at that point, what was motivating you? Did you have any influences in your life? And, what was your ambition for your career, and how did you go after those things? Sorry, that was many questions.
Yeah. And I honestly, I don't know how to answer it. It truly is one of those things where you look back and it was hard, but
survival mode?
It's your survival mode. That's the best, You're either going to sink or swim, so you may as well just keep trying.
Yeah.
And then eventually it gets easier. And then it just
then you just do
little by
it.
little, yeah.
So, and I'm going to ask this question now around that time. So in terms of personal experience, well, we need to address some of the clients you have right now, but a proudest moment that you've had in your career personally, and maybe one of your biggest failures, and how you overcome that failure. So if you think back at the, was it 22-year-long career that you've had, what was your proudest moment? And
the bubble for sure.
The bubble. So so let's skip right there to that. So you've got your practice already. Had you already started working with high-profile teams? And then how did the bubble come about? And I read about that last night, but I want you to kind of maybe bring us up to speed with the audience that you have and how you got in front of that audience.
Up until that point, yes, I was already working with athletes. I'd been working with the Orlando Ballet for some time, an NFL training camp that was local, and Orlando had a couple of arena sports that came. We had the Sharks, I think they were soccer,
right?
And then the Titans were lacrosse, and so I'd been working with these guys. Plus, I'd been doing all the other stuff like the Taekwondo and the Sunshine State Games. There was a list of
what's the worst sport to do for your body that from your experience?
Oh, it's probably gymnastics gymnastics.
And early, right?
Ballet. And then you, those are just because the sport itself is so grinding on your body. But then you've got the action sports, and it's fine until it's not fine.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm talking about there is like the motocross and supercross, and that's my favorite sport.
Really?
I geek out. Really? I love it.
I love that.
I don't get starstruck. I don't get and the good news is half the time I don't know who anyone is.
What do you love about it? The people doing it, or all the kit, the bikes, the noise, the mud? It's
watching individuals. The only way I can explain it is they don't have a sense of self-preservation. And they're true adrenaline junkies. And so you see them do the most magnificent things that you don't see anyone else do. And it's crazy because you look at these guys and they're just ordinary, little. You wouldn't look at them and say, this is a top-notch athlete.
Right.
But what they can do with their bodies and what they can do with their machines and the mental capacity that it takes, I think that's the thing that attracts me most to it is the mental game. And I spend all this time in a physical practice, and I'm all about the physical capacity of the human body. But then when it comes down to what I geek out about is the way these guys can just endure that kind of, and you fall down and you do it again, you fall down and you do it again. They don't quit. It's amazing to me.
So you're kind of a little bit of an adrenaline junkie too, then.
I'm not.
I'm not. You're adrenaline junkie off of watching their adrenaline.
And that's what I'm attracted to is because I could never do that.
Really?
I could never
I could see you out there. I could definitely see you out there in all the leathers and on the bike and everything. But so then you're working with these sports people, Orlando Magic, Orlando Ballet. Let's talk about the bubble.
Yep.
So we're going into 2020. And it started then, right? That was when. So how did this happen for you?
So when everything got shut down and they made the announcement that the NBA was going to not shut down, number one, that spoke to me because everyone else is shutting down and we're saying, no, we're going to make this work. So that alone was huge. And then them teaming up with Disney.
Yes, I remember because they were looking for houses. We had quite a few people in my area of what I do looking for property to stay, and it had to be in a certain area.
It was a beautiful thing to see taking place. And I feel that I am just extremely fortunate to be in the right place at the right time.
Qualified and talented. But so how did they find you?
So because I'd already been with the Orlando Ballet for at that time, not the Orlando Ballet,
Magic.
the Orlando Magic, since 2009. So like 11 years, 11 seasons.
And that's a great run to stay with one organization.
Yeah.
You're not charging them enough, Sabrina.
Don't say that. Yeah. But one of the gentlemen that was with the Players Association used to work with the Magic. And he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, we're doing this thing. How would you like to be the chiropractor?"
Wow. So what did that look like in real life?
Which part?
Well,
that
you're saying
conversation
the bubble, but yeah, the conversation, but the bubble, like, so did that mean you couldn't see anybody else? Or you could only see them? Or you just had to be tested every time you went to see them? I mean, what was because initially, I mean, obviously Florida, we were only really shut down for 2.5 days, but I jest. But, yeah, what did that look like to the people involved in that? And how many people were in the bubble?
I don't know. So many. The entire organization.
Right, okay.
From the everyone.
So they played with no... Look, sorry, forgive me. I wasn't watching. Yeah. But so they played basketball with no audience.
Basketball with no audience.
TV, and then...
Yeah.
Just the squeaky shoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
And
it was amazing.
And are you still involved with them? The NBA. So you are still with Orlando Magic?
Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was just... I was the only contracted chiropractor for the bubble. So 22 teams had me at their disposal.
22 teams? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. I had no idea. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole, were you traveling to them, or I'm trying to imagine how this worked.
There. So
yes.
Yep, we moved in for 3 months. And
where did you live?
We lived at Coronado Springs.
Oh wow.
I think there were 3 or 4 resorts. Because
so it all happened. It all went to Disney. Yeah. Sorry, this is someone who knows nothing about it. So.
Yep.
And how did Bella feel about that?
It was confusing a little bit in the beginning, and it was really hard for me. One of the interviews I did the past couple of years, they were asking me a lot about it and what it all felt like, and the things that you think about when you're talking to someone about this amazing opportunity. It's an amazing career opportunity, not personally, but also for chiropractic. Yeah. And they want you to talk about like how excited you were and how great you felt about being chosen. Yeah. And all I could think about was leaving my daughter. Yeah. And just crying. So she wasn't allowed
to be in the bubble.
No. I had to just make that decision.
But as a mum too, you're also making this massive life decision because you know what it means for you as a family. Mm-hmm. And
at the end of the day, I had to leave her to do it for her, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's everything you do as a parent. It's not about you. No. It's about them, and it's about creating something, a platform for them to grow from. Yeah. And so it's going to make me cry now. So
I know.
When you get there and you're like, oh my God, what have I done? And am I going to be able to make this? Am I going to make this happen? So it took me that day to just I lost my mind in that hotel room by myself, just with this amazing opportunity that's been given to me. And you just have to go, okay, just one step at a time. So it took about 2 weeks. Thank you. Took about 2 weeks. It was touch and go. So it was just a lot of time spent just reflecting and trying to figure out if I'm doing the right thing. Mm-hmm.
And FaceTiming.
And luckily, there was a couple of people that weren't cheerleaders for me. I'm sure. But there were so many people that were.
Yeah. The closest people to the family normally aren't the cheerleaders.
When I would ask them, like, what do I do? Like, would you do this? And without hesitation, every single one of them, you're stupid if you don't. Yeah. Bella will be fine.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, children, how old was she then? What, 8, 9, 8?
Yeah.
God, time's gone so fast.
Yeah, 9.
But, they're like puppies. They have a 5-second memory.
Yeah.
And as long as they're being loved and nurtured and treated the right way, that's what has the lasting footprint on her. I mean, she's well, I know her. I've met her. She's doing fabulous. Adores her mum, and you adore her. I know you do. But I can imagine. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you had to go. Yeah, I can imagine. She's your world. How tough that would have been. Mm-hmm. But then, so that being said, you probably worked twice as hard at it because you had twice as much to prove to your own self. Like that. Why have I done this? If I'm going to do it, I've done it now. I need to make like
the dedication to professionalism is paramount there.
I mean, I think we must not underestimate what a big deal this was, because one, you're female in a very male-dominated industry, not just chiropractic but sports world. There's a lot of testosterone out there. These are big guys, and and to be the person for 22 teams. What has that done for you since that time? So how long were you in the bubble? Did you say 3 months?
3 months.
3 months. So what has it done for you, do you think? I mean, now you're looking back, I mean, I'm sure no regrets, but did you capitalize on it? Do you feel that you worked it enough to your advantage? Has it changed the course of your career?
It's gotten me a lot of attention. I actually chose not to capitalize on it in that respect. Obviously, they pay you for your time.
I mean, when I say that, more about, can I be honest with you? I invited you here to have this conversation. I didn't actually know anything about the bubble. So I'm glad to know that, because it was a great discovery last night when I was reading. But I just think you're an all-round fabulous person anyway, and you're running a great business, and I understand how much effort and work that took to get there. But now it's like, okay, you just went to superstar status. So, but I mean, what it's done for you going forward, and what doors did you open the doors for yourself? But how has it helped you going forward?
It honestly hasn't made a big difference. It really hasn't.
Doing what you did.
It was one of those things where it happened and it was beautiful, and I chose not to exploit it, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, this is how I feel. And there's a reason, like if you walk into my office, case in point, you would never know who I work with.
No.
No
idea. No.
Right there, I don't have pictures and all that, and nothing against anyone who loves that kind of stuff.
No, but I've been to another place where they literally said, when I walked in the door, my minimum payment was going to be $5,000, and this is why that person's on the wall, that person's on the wall, that person's on the wall. And I left going, no, dude, I'm not paying you just because you've worked with these
just 'cause
people.
you worked with them. I didn't.
You hadn't even looked at me. Yeah.
I don't want. To me, there's. Oh gosh, this is a complex one. Yeah. Because for me, it truly is about building trust, and it's about the connection with that person. It's not taking that person and using that person as an opportunity to exploit them for my gain or my benefit. And I just feel, it just doesn't feel good to me.
No, I mean, I think more when I say capitalize, what I feel about capitalizing, more about the fact that you were revered, respected, and professional enough to be chosen. So really for me, it's not about the people that you were treating. It's the fact that those people that you were treating considered you to be the right person for the job. Yeah. So for me, and I think it's the same for me, when I get chosen by someone, high profile, I'm not necessarily, I mean, I'll talk about Ed Sheeran all the day long because I work with him. But everybody else, it was more about the fact that, wow, they chose me. Yeah.
And they're going to refer you to their friends. Yeah. Right? And that's what it's all about. Like, you do a good job for that person, and that person trusts you, and that person wants to tell others about you.
But do you think it's helped you with your teaching platform and your talking and education? Obviously, now we're in this world of podcasting. Sure, and we're also, online courses and teaching. Yeah. Having that, it helps, right, to have that endorsement. Nothing to do with anyone you touch, just the endorsement of being the person that they chose.
Certainly. I was asked in 2019, before all of this, it was 2019, it was 2019. I was asked to do my first conference to teach. And when we're there, he's like, okay, here's your topic. We're talking about women in chiropractic, women in sports, and it's a double play on of not only women in chiropractic, the doctors, but also treating female athletes. And he's like, I just want you to talk about these topics and this and that. And so we get there, and we're getting ready, and he looks at me and he says, so when's the last time you did this? I was like, I've never done this.
Wow.
And it's given me the opportunity to force myself to do things I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
Because you're so afraid that you're going to be judged, and it's a really hard thing to get around.
Yeah.
And so you try to listen to people who have done it, who have been doing it, and the things that they say. And one of the things that resonates me, you have to care for people more than you care what they think about you.
Yeah.
And so now having this, not only being in professional sports for so long, but also now having this bubble under my belt, so to speak, it really gives me the opportunity to grab audiences and be able to teach people what I think is important. Yeah. So yeah, I've done all these things and rah, yay me, but at the end of the day, I can teach you how to connect with one person.
I mean, I think you can absolutely lead people the way to connect with one person. I think you're a pretty special person in your ability to connect with people. I don't think you can always teach the humanity level. I think you can wheedle out the people in the room, and if they're not someone who's going to connect with humanity, they might want to consider working in a lab. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
And I think that learning that about yourself needs to happen in the growing process. So we are going to come to a close soon. I've loved this conversation, by the way, and I'm learning things about you that I didn't know. But what I really want to know is, what's motivating you now, and what's next for you? You're so quiet in your persona and your presence, but yeah, you're a little firehouse, and there's obviously ambition there in you. And do you feel fulfilled? But what's next for you? What's going to motivate you in professionally, and your ambitions, and where do you want to go with this? Are you still growing too? I
am really enjoying teaching. I really am. I'm going to several conferences a year now, and it's, like I said, it was my biggest fear, that public speaking. It was terrifying, and I wish I had videos of that first time, because
I'm sure somebody has them.
You're shuddering, and you're like jumping. It was terrible. It was terrible. And
maybe you think so.
But and that's what got me about your email. It's like when you signed off that way, I'm like, yes, because that's what life's all about. It's all about like pushing yourself and doing something that scares you. So that's my motivating factor, is what's left that scares me. And if there's something that scares me, then I'm going to do it.
It's funny, isn't it? Everyone keeps telling me I'm so brave. And I said, I don't think I am brave. What am I brave about? Because I'm crying all the time, so I can't be that brave. You're making me cry. But, and I think it is so different with women, isn't it? Most of the women I meet, we get so emotional about it. I don't think I'm brave to do this. I feel like I want to meet women because I want to learn from you. I want to understand you, and I want to understand the people that are in front of me, because I want to know what's driving them. You're influenced by the circle of people that you have around you, but certain people just, I don't know, you gravitate towards, and I don't let them go. And I feel that power in you. There's something big and special about you. I don't feel brave. I always said the worst things that, and I shouldn't say this, but the worst things that I've ever had happen to me have happened already. So most things don't scare me anymore. Obviously I was nervous today to just have a camera and a microphone and everything and do a good job with you, but you was my first guest. Have been amazing. But Yeah, I think it's great that we can go over these hurdles. Sabrina was talking about an email I sent, and it was basically I invited a bunch of friends and women in business that I knew to be my first guest on She Networks podcast. And I think I signed off my email, "Your terrified friend" or something. And I'm a little bit, because, you know, we don't want to make a fool of ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
And we care so much what other people think. And I think that's maybe more of a female... Certainly we talk about it more than men do. Right. But the world's your oyster. If there was something that you could do, some platform you could be on, some place where you could make a change, where would that be? I see you on some sort of survival TV show too. I really do. Is it you and Ryan, your Indiana Jones fiance, yes, being on Survivor, and it's like that you would never get kicked off because you'd be saving everyone from their aches and pains. But in seriousness, where is there a place for you? And it may not be anything to do with your career. It may be something else.
Yeah, I really don't think it's that at all. Because as you feel yourself grow, right, and you feel yourself overcome things that you struggled with before, or maybe even biases or prejudices that you had, that you were taught to have, or that you learned fear, and you feel yourself overcome those. I think if we could all just work on ourselves, that's really what it comes down to. Right, the biggest gift we can give anyone is to be the best version of ourselves.
Love that. It's on you on a really good day.
You want a really good day, and you want everyone to be. You want everyone to feel that.
Yeah.
Well, want everyone to be healthy.
Keep doing what you're doing. You're beautiful. I'm so happy to have had you as my first guest. We did this together. Thank you. Thanks, Sabrina. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.